Hi, I'm Sam Edith.
And I'm Amy Nelson. Welcome to What's Her Story with Sam and Amy.
This is a show about the world's most remarkable women, their professional and personal journey.
Together, we'll hear from gold medalists, best-selling authors, and leaders of the world's most iconic brands.
Listen every Thursday or join the conversation anytime on Instagram at What's Her Story Podcast.
Today, we're so excited to welcome Cheryl Burke. She has been the star of 25 seasons of the hit show Dancing with the Stars. She's also an advocate for mental health.
So Cheryl, I'm Sam. I'm Amy's co-host.
Hi, Sam.
Hi. And I read your book,
Oh,
which
wow.
I know, yeah.
We read every book of every guest we have, and it's really
You're
amazing.
such a great researcher. I love it. I love it so much. You've done your homework.
I've done my homework, although I know there's like a lot of chapters that have yet to be written post that book because I know it was a while
Amen,
ago.
sister.
So
Amen. Yes.
yeah, okay. All right.
Well, I'm a fan
so,
of your guys' podcast. I've been listening even before I met
you.
Amy. So you guys are doing great work. So thank you.
Oh,
Thank
that's so
you.
nice.
You're
How did you
amazing.
first hear about the podcast?
I think I'm just like really into podcasts. I don't even listen to music anymore. So like I'm all about, mental health and, self-help and all of that and just trying to, survive here one day at a time, and just like being inspirational and motivational. And you guys are all about that. So I love it.
Yes, and mental health right now is like the number one topic in my house because I have two teen daughters and one is struggling
Oh,
a little
really?
bit, and
Oh,
it's just
yeah, that's hard.
So, yeah. All right, so we will dig in, and I think we would love to start just by going from the moment that you got that call asking
My
you to
goodness.
be on Dancing with the Stars.
Wow. Well, I was living in Harlem at the time, 136th and Adam Clayton to be exact, and I was with my last competitive partner. I just turned professional, and it was they were going into the second season of Dancing with the Stars, and Louis Van Amstel, who is one of the OGs, he was a part of the first season. He danced with Lisa Rinna second season. He basically requested that they come and, I guess, audition me. So they did. They flew to New York, and it was the craziest experience because I was doing it kind of behind my partner's / boyfriend's back because I was kind of like, oh, I don't know if he's going to like this. It was kind of an abusive relationship, to be quite honest. And so I didn't know how it was going to go, but he totally gave me his blessing after I got the call, after they said, we would love for you to come to LA and do like a more intimate interview and possibly just sign on for one season. And, he was cheating on me at the time. So basically it was like a good out for him. But thank God, it's like that Sliding Doors movie, with Gwyneth Paltrow. It's like, I could have if he would have just said, no, let's work on this, or let's just focus on our competitive career, I would have never said yes.
Wow.
How did
Yeah.
I'm sorry I missed the name, but how did the man who was already on Dancing with the Stars, how did he know about you?
Oh, it's a small community, girl. Ballroom dancing. Yeah, it's a small little world. It's a little soap opera. But yeah, we all know of each other. Louis has played a significant role as far as a mentor goes in my life. He's an older professional and he's been in the business a lot longer, and I used to look up to him. So like we used to just be friendly. But it's not easy, I guess, finding, nowadays is different, but back then, I guess it wasn't easy to find American ballroom dancers. It's a lot of the community, they're from Europe, there's all different types of, obviously, ethnicities, but when it comes to like an Asian woman who's American, it's not common, I guess. Now it is, though.
So you moved to Los Angeles, and at what point did you realize, oh my goodness, this show is going to change my life?
Oh my goodness. Well, it changed my life from the moment I landed. I mean, from like just being on camera. I mean, I was a different girl back then. I had an English accent. I had no identity, really, because ballroom dancing is a man's world, and it's really, they don't really care what we think, as women, we are the followers, not leaders. And so like, they would ask me like, what's your name? Say your name in a complete sentence. And I sounded like a little mouse from England. I'm like, where did this English accent come in? But it was very much, in a way I was like coach, like an Olympian, so it was very intimate in that sense. But the moment it changed my life was when I danced with Drew Lachey, my very first season. That was the whole Nick Lachey and Jessica Simpson drama that was happening. So literally, we were like, all of a sudden, like we were in the car going to dinner or something, all of us, and there was like they were like taking back streets. I'm like, what is going on? Like, we're just going to Casa Vega. Like, it's really not that complicated. And then, yeah, it just was a lot. It was like I got thrown into this, right, in a good way. I mean, so blessed, obviously, but I was not ready for this. I thought for sure it was going to be very temporary. It was going to be one season, and this was back when we did one season a year, and then I was going to go back to my competitive life and continue. So,
How
25
did,
seasons later.
how did you find out that Drew would be your partner, and kind of generally, how do you find out who your partner is?
Well, we have no idea. Like, we're the last people cast, basically. So they have to cast the celebrities first, and then, now it's a little bit different-ish, but still, like, we don't know. Sometimes they don't have a partner for you, and then you're shit out of luck. Sorry if I'm not allowed to swear.
We can swear on our
Okay,
podcast.
okay. I just
Go for
figured I
it.
start with the shit first. Um, so yeah, I mean, it's a little crazy, right? Because in my mind and in my mom's, like my mom ingrained in me, and that like a dancer's life for a woman is not doesn't last very long, and you don't make any money, right? So how are you going to make money if you can't make money in your sleep, type thing? My mom is a businesswoman, and it was pretty crazy that, first of all, that we're still going on. We just completed season 30 of the show. I mean, that's unheard of nowadays, especially nowadays. Um, Still network television, still a voting show. It's crazy. But yeah, I don't even. It was really like mind blowing. Just I kind of took it day by day. Like, it forced me to live in the present moment, because I was like, okay, well, after the second season, my first season, I was like, okay, I can only live off this money for so long, and I literally at one point couldn't even buy an apple at Ralph's, right? So I was like, am I going back? Am I not? But like, I made a choice that I obviously didn't want to go back to the abusive relationship that I was in. So ultimately,
How have your relationships changed since that time?
oh my goodness. Well, I've changed, for sure. But I think with any type of, I guess, independence, first of all, like when
Mhm.
I was very codependent. Like I said, I was struggling with an identity. I was so used to being told what to wear, how to say things, if I was, you know, like how to present myself. It's crazy. I don't know if you ever been to a ballroom dance competition before, but it's like the Oscars, right? So it's like the Oscars for our ballroom dance community, and it's very glamorous, but not so glamorous, right? Like, it's what you see on, not Dance Moms, but like, what's that? Toddlers and Tiaras. That's like who we are. But like, it really changed, I guess, in a good way. I mean, like, when you leave the ballroom industry, you meet now this Hollywood life, right? And I guess for me, it was very important always in my life to stay as grounded as possible, and to have people that don't necessarily tell me what I want to hear. I surround myself with people who are as real as I think that, they are. And I definitely don't have people around me that sugarcoat anything, right? So I'm very much a realist, and I think that I've gotten to know myself throughout the years, and I now have, different morals and beliefs, and how I would like, my path and my journey to be, while still trying to surrender, because I'm a control freak. But with that comes, and my sobriety, it's been a small circle of friends.
Has that come, that kind of that growth and that more coming into yourself, has that presented at work in any different ways? I mean, have you become more assertive? Have you become,
Oh, yeah, yeah, I hear you. Um, I've definitely always been very much a taskmaster, is what they say. They labeled me as this from season two. Like, I don't take any shit, right? So it's, but that's the way I was coached. There was no way that was sugar coated in any way, shape, or form. But it has definitely made me, I've teaching people, like, just being able to educate, like, about even just dancing, has really taught me how to be more patient, actually, and more forgiving, and to have more empathy and compassion, because I think the hard ass only lasts for so long, right?
Mhm.
I want to go back to the relationship part, because really what I was asking is, so many of our listeners have either been in abusive relationships or, seen close, dear ones in them and not get out. What was it that allowed you to get out of that and then had healthier romantic relationships in the future?
Well, it's a work in progress, right? Like, even if it's not a physical like abuse, it could be any type of abuse, and you may not even be aware of it. But like for me, it went from, I was sexually molested as a little girl. And then from then on, it basically dated too young, had sex when I was too young, fell in love with the bad boys, didn't appreciate anybody that was nice to me. It was actually a turnoff whenever I was treated the way I should have been treated. And that as horrible as an abusive relationship is, obviously get out, like that's the number one thing. But it's really about yourself, right? Like it's the self love, it's knowing what your worth is, which we're all worthy and we all matter. And I think until you really practice that and get to know yourself, sometimes you're blind to the abuse, right? Because the
Mhm.
abuse can come in so many different forms. It doesn't have to be a physical abusive relationship, it could be mental. But, sometimes, at least for me, I'm speaking from experience, like I would not believe my own reality. I would, in a way, justify at that time my abuser's actions, even if there was bruises on my body. It was like somehow it never happened. It never happened, which is why I continued to go back. But really, at the root of it all, it's because I just had no sense of respect or love for myself. So,
You mentioned that you were sexually abused, and when
mhm,
you were 6, I read that you testified.
mhm.
What was that like?
It's so crazy because my timeline sucks. I think I just did an interview. I was like, I would testified at 9, like, but that's part of the trauma, right? Like,
Right,
that's part of
right.
the, like, you don't really want to remember. But I just remember my mom wasn't allowed to come in there with me, so it was terrifying. I remember taking under oath. I was like, I had a long sleeve sweatshirt. It's crazy. It was like it was yesterday, but I was like doing it like this, and the judge was like, excuse me, miss." And then my abuser was right in front of my face, and again, like going back to the questioning the reality, like there was a lot of shame behind it. I was,
Mhm.
there was the grooming right side of things that happened. Oprah talks a lot about it as well, and it's a real thing. It's like, the actual act of the, sexual intimacy or whatever it was horrible. But what was really bad and scarring was the grooming side of things. It's like really getting in, like, that's, I guess this is why pedophiles sometimes go towards younger kids, because that is like the prime time that you can actually influence somebody. And it was really hard for me to testify against him because I was like, did he ever do anything wrong to me? Like, he just loved me. And my mom and my real dad actually divorced when I was 2, and I think that was another trauma as well. And so I didn't really have that stable father figure in my life, and he kind of, in a weird way, played that role. And he didn't just do it to me. He did it, a lot of people came out of the woodwork because of it. He did it to his nieces, and then my stepsister, older stepsister, who to this day, bless her heart, but she can't talk about it. And this is why I'm such an advocate for mental health, because it really, if you think you're alone, which you're not, and you can't talk about it, it's okay. But hopefully, somebody who's listening to this or can relate to my story, because that's all I have. I'm not a certified therapist. I'm not like anyone that can just fix whatever. I mean, I'm still a work in progress, but it's being able to say, you know what, me too.
Mhm.
In reading your book, I identified with parts of this story because I had a childhood as a competitive athlete, and
Okay.
my first tennis coach turned out to be a pedophile. And I
Sorry.
spent so many years with him within that grooming phase and
Mm,
got out before the abuse to me started. Other people weren't so lucky, but I still, it stays with me, and it's weird. But until you just said that the grooming phase was just as damaging, it's almost like a whole part of me, like I'm about to cry because it's like a
oh,
validation of just years of what I went through with him. And one
right.
thing in your story that was really powerful, and I think it's so good for parents to hear, is this was a guy who was like the friendly former mailman who everyone said is so helpful. And, he sort of embedded himself in your family, which is also what my tennis coach had done. He would come for dinner, he was always around. And
Mhm.
I think that there's so many parents out there who don't see the pedophiles in front of them and they're hiding in plain sight because of
Mhm.
course they're attracted to schools or camps or places where there are so many children.
And also, thank you for sharing that, and I'm so sorry. Um, and I totally relate to everything you just said. But you know what was crazy during the pandemic? I decided to start a YouTube channel, and I actually took all of my mom's old VHS tapes and I saw all of that footage. Meaning, like, I saw him, like, we were like, it was hours and hours of footage of us, like, putting food on our plate. It was like big gatherings with my mom's side of the family and him there. And then just seeing my, like, it was a crazy experience. I don't
Right.
know if it was something that you're ever going to be ready for, but like, it just showed how, look, my mom and dad obviously did the best that they could at that time, right?
Mhm.
But there's also a sense of denial. There's also a sense of like, turn the other way. I don't, it's almost like an enabling type thing, but not to the sense of they did never wanted to hurt me. I truly believe this, and we've had tons of therapy about it, right? And but there is that, like, as a parent, like, you don't, I don't even know, I'm not even a parent, but, like, I can't even imagine. All I know is that if I ever am one day, I'm gonna be so, like, I would never let another gender, I guess, come into my girl's or boy's life, without, like, 100%, like, whether it be me there with them or whatever. It's just, it's that, it's like, it was really hard for me to see how, like, my mom and dad never made eye contact with him. It was like, literally, I just watched everything when it comes to body language, and it's like, it's kind of apparent that, like, even my relatives, they were just looking at him like there's this old retired mailman who wears suspenders and who's kind of perverted. Like, I mean, I don't know if it's because I'm the victim of, or I was the victim of, the sexual abuse, that, like, now maybe I associate every old retired mailman as, but like, but still, it's kind of awkward, right? That this guy's living with us.
Yeah.
And literally, he got it. So after I wrote that book, he got out of jail. I don't know how that happened, but, and went to my stepdad's dental practice in the Bay Area and said, I never did that to your kids. And so I think that also reminded me of that we're dealing with mental illness here, right? We're dealing
Right.
with people who, and in a way, when people say, have you forgiven him? I forgive not the act of, but I forgive so that I can make peace with it. But then I also, it helped to know and to reassure myself that this man is sick, like he was actually sick.
Mhm.
Um, and I don't know, I don't really have anything else to say other than, like, if anything, that should maybe help when it comes to some sort of peace of mind. Of course, at our expense, but, like, I wouldn't be sitting here today if it didn't happen.
It's really, I mean, it's a terrible story, and Sam, your
Yeah.
story too, which I know well from talking with you about it. But I never had anything happen, but I played water polo in high school, and we traveled with the men's team. And I found out when I was 27 that the men's coach had been raping my goalie the entire time
Oh
I
my
was in high
gosh.
school. And he eventually went to prison when she was in her 20s. She confronted him and he
Wow.
went to prison. But when you talk about looking back through those videos, the thing that happened when I learned of this is that I reevaluated my entire high school experience, my entire athletic experience. Like, what did I miss? How did I miss it? And I think the thing is, like, from all of this, like, when we're little, we're taught that monsters look like monsters, but they
Mhm.
don't.
Right, and that's the scary part. I mean, they can
Yeah.
look like anybody. It could be
Right.
anybody.
Right.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Let's talk about your mom. I mean, she really in parts of it, when I was reading your book, I felt like at parts, okay, she maybe put too much pressure on you, but then
She was
towards
the
the
ultimate
end,
dance mom.
okay. Well, it wasn't clear. You were very gracious, and I did.
Well, I
I
had
would.
to.
I
She
would
was gonna
love.
read it. I'm kidding. I love you, mom.
Well, so what was your relationship like with your mom in terms of the relationship to dance?
Oh my goodness. Well, that's a great question. Um, well, it's challenging, until now, when I've, like, cut the umbilical cord a little bit. It's like, you know, she's my mother's Filipina. She is the ultimate tiger mom slash, like, wanting the best for me, but just not knowing how to express it emotionally or physically, right? Like, so there is that barrier of, like, vulnerability equals weakness type thing, right? So, and then I see my mom, this rags to riches story, literally. coming from poverty in the Philippines, marrying my father, who ended up being a womanizer, and then never asking for a dime from him, and just wanted to create this nursing agency, which she just sold recently and made it a chain of like nursing agencies. She was a nurse in the Philippines and learned how to speak English on her own. Like, what a woman, right? Like, I look up to her. Like, she really came out of, such horrible living situations. And not only that, she brought all of her 10 brothers and sisters from the Philippines, and so like I understand why, there's the way that she acted was all that she could do at that time as far as showing love. Like, for her, money equals love, and because she had to kind of do it on her own, she wasn't there, for me in that sense, like a physical body there. But she did hire another nanny who was like played like my second mom, I guess. She was Filipino, but she didn't drive, which is why this guy was hired. But um, I just recently have I come to terms with the fact that she was, in a way, I felt abandoned as a little girl. I felt like, where is my mom? And then all of this happened. And then going to therapy now, like consistently for the last 15 years of my life, it has really put the pieces together, but it also has made me understand the other side of the story. Like, she didn't do it to abandon me. She did it because she was really trying hard to just literally be able to put food on the table, and then now be able to help me with my dance career. I mean, ballroom dancing is not cheap, and she was able to support me. And maybe I shouldn't have gone and traveled to England every summers alone with no chaperone, but it is what it is. And I've learned to kind of accept her. But do I wish that she would have been that like stay at home mom? 100%. But I mean, I don't think I would have developed the resilience or the that hustle mentality, I guess, if it wasn't for what my mom showed me when she
Well, and
was,
there's probably,
a
there's
mom.
probably a happy medium between the stay-at-home mom and what she
Yeah,
was, right? Because she wasn't
right,
ever home for bedtime or dinner. I mean,
right.
it sounds like
Yeah.
she was
Working.
always
Yeah,
working.
24 hours. Yeah, she
Yeah.
started the company when I was born in '84, and you know, and then we started trying to do business. So like, her way of showing love with me, not my little half sister who's 9 years younger than me, but like she definitely wanted to do business together when I started Dancing with the Stars. So we had Cheryl Burke dance studios, and we had like three of them. And then I was like, oh no, this is a disaster. Like, I actually can't work with my mother, but I see, and then like her whole thing was, and it, bless her heart. Like, I'm saying this all out of love, but like, she's like, look at Jessica Simpson and her family. And like, this is back in the day, and like everyone does it. And I'm like, but that I'm not everybody. And we can't
Hmm.
compare our relationship. Like, I would like to have a mom first. Like, let's work on our relationship as mother daughter. And then maybe, but that was her way of showing love. And I had no idea, right? Like, her way of showing love is through micromanaging. And I see myself now developing that, which is not a bad thing for certain parts of my life, but I'm really trying to kind of retrain my brain because um, you are who you were raised by in a way, and it's not a bad thing. Again, like, it's because of my mother that I have the hustle, but I would like to be more vulnerable for sure.
I watched a YouTube video on your YouTube channel of you and your mom where you asked her 10 questions. And it
Oh
was
my
really,
gosh.
I loved it. It was great. Like, what's your relationship with her today?
Well, I haven't really talked about this, but I'm talking to you guys because I feel like no one's going to hear this, and it's for just three girls chatting. But my mom is not. She's going through early stages of Alzheimer's at the moment, and it is really sad because you see this woman who was like this boss bitch, like freaking just an amazing woman, and then all of a sudden you see her be so vulnerable. And in a way, as much as I've yearned for that, right? I've wanted that. It's hard for me to, I guess, take it all in,
Hmm.
right? Because like, I don't know Sherry Burke as being vulnerable yet, and yet I'm trying to figure out how to be there for her. And I know that with something like that, you can't, I mean, it's out of your control, right? Like, it's patience. It's just being able to just show love, and if you have to repeat yourself, so be it. Who cares, and it's like, then it gets frustrating, and then like all these different emotions, and then when all of a sudden she's like maybe a little too needy, and I'm like, but wait a second, this is what I've wanted. And then, but it just shows you how freaking valuable our life is. And but in any moment, you know, it's like all of that hard work you may never remember. And it's like it's all about making the memories and I guess really being with each other while you can.
I'm so sorry. That's so
Right.
hard.
Yeah, it's I have no idea how to handle it. And to be quite honest, I was trying not to like talk about it, but it's this is selfishly in a way, it's part of my therapy. Like this
Mhm.
being able to voice it and just say it as it is, because I'm sure a lot of people can relate in a way. But my mother is young, you know, she's only 67 years old.
Wow.
But it really does put everything into perspective.
Ugh.
So, how did the businesses evolve? I mean, you did have the dance studios for many years. What was the decision like to close them?
Oof, lots of tears and rage and, you know, just reality. Like it's not easy owning a, first of all, business, let alone doing it with your mom, but also like, look, we communicate as dancers in a different way. Like my mother got her MBA in business and I admire her education. I'm not saying it's anybody's fault other than the fact that especially nowadays, it's almost impossible to run a dance studio, like, especially if you have to go live in an actual place, you know? But it was just the fact that it was called Cheryl Burke Dance and I was never there probably was a big problem. I was busy shaking my ass on television for so that there was such thing as a Cheryl Burke dance. But at the same time, it's like people want to meet the person with a name on the building, right? And like I
Mhm.
could only do so much. Um, and then it just made a huge wedge between me and my mom. And for me, that was the most important relationship to savor. It was not necessarily about making money.
Makes sense. So we talked a lot about your mom, your
Yeah.
dad,
Which one?
your birth dad. So he
Yes.
passed away a
Yeah.
few years ago.
Hmm.
And one thing that I read about that was really remarkable is that you got to meet your father's other daughter after he died
Yes. Yes. And his son.
and his son. So how did that happen?
Well, you know, death is a strange, I guess, thing to deal with because it could either bring you closer together to your other like family members that you had no idea about, or it could just you could live with this, and it's both for me. You could live with all of these unanswered questions that there's no way in hell I could ever figure out why he died, what the cause of death was. Like I turned into that girl from Homeland, literally, like turned my whole place upside down. I was going to find out why. I mean, I went to Thailand when I wasn't supposed to. My dad always said, long story short, my father was an attorney in San Francisco. Rewind, and excuse the foul language, but he followed his passion, which is and literally opened up strip clubs in Pattaya and owned a whole strip of strip clubs with, you know, probably underage, you know, prostitution happening. But when you go to this little town in Thailand or city, you see like old European white men with like young girls,
Mm,
and maybe they're not girls, maybe they're what they call as lady boys,
Good
like
boy.
whatever tickles your
Yeah.
pickle, like it's fine, but it's so like it's so wrong, like the whole like image. I mean, my mom, I mean, I don't know how she did this, but she made sure I developed a relationship with my dad. So like every year, her, my stepdad, my stepsister, me, we would, it's like family trip. Let's go to the strip clubs. Like, let's go to Pattaya and see your dad. And I was like also too young to see any of this, but like eventually, you know, I continued on with the tradition. And my dad was like a long lost friend who like
Mhm.
he was an alcoholic. He reminds me of I it just totally I forgot he's a famous actor, but he reminds me of like this like really opinionated, I don't want to say Donald Trump, but kind of. He's a narcissist. He was a narcissist, and it's still hard for me to even process the fact that he's gone, but like the you know, he was very opinionated and I just loved his brain and I loved the way that he was communicating. And but yet there was so much shadiness happening around me, but it was so weird because my dad could never do anything wrong, like any wrong in my eyes, and it was a weird relationship. Like he knew more about me than my mom will ever know in that sense because there was no judgment, right? There was like
Mhm.
no
mm.
there was so we had this really weird relationship where we wouldn't talk for years and then we would have a long conversation via FaceTime, and then he would always tell me, Cheryl, don't ever come back here whenever I die. And then like cut to, I didn't realize that he was like involved in mafia, drama, and like with strip clubs. Obviously it's a shady business, but I don't even know what your question was. all, I'm just reminiscing back with my real dad, and how like he played a really, I guess, huge role in my life, yet he was the one who abandoned us. And it was so easy. For what I find really strange was how easy it was for me to forgive him and to do all of this, right? To like figure out how he died, to like try and like, I guess, go to Thailand, and the government there is kind of shady, and just to think that I could actually like be, okay, there's two wills here. What are we dealing with? It's like it taught me how to surrender, really, and it was like that was the hardest part. It was letting go of my dad's death and just let it be in a way, but then still not having any answers. So that was the start of my no, because one cause of death says another thing, and then one other. It's a little bit different over there.
Yeah. I've been to Thailand a few times, but
yeah,
different place.
Yeah, you don't want to get arrested there. That's for sure. Or catch yourself in Pattaya and see, all of those weird clubs.
Can you take us through the process of Dancing with the Stars? What happens from the moment you find out who your partner is? What's that training like? And then what?
And then it is like, okay, well, the train is 7 days a week. So except for the first few weeks of training, right? So we train about 6 days a week. We do about 4 hours because everyone started getting hurt and injured. So like Jewel, for instance, Jewel was supposed to do Dancing with the Stars. She only made it through a couple weeks because like back then we were allowed to do as many hours and whatever. But dancing is, if you've never danced before, especially ballroom, it's a whole nother beast, right? You're moving parts of your body you've never moved before. But like it really is a grueling process, but in the most rewarding way possible. It's 7 days a week as soon as we go live. Sometimes it's 10 to 12 weeks, depending on the season. You've got 16 celebrities, and you got to live in the present moment here. And hopefully your partner is a cool person and who trusts the process and was not forced to do the show, right? So it's like sometimes, it's like an arranged marriage. You just don't know.
Okay, so you've had now 29 partners, is that right?
25. Or no, technically
partners.
24, because I danced with Emmett Smith twice.
Okay, and so what is that like, that first meeting? It must be like a blind date.
It is, in a way. Yeah. I mean, like, now that I've done this show for so long, it's kind of like, okay, like process of elimination, right? Like I can get all the juicy gossip, and then it's like a whole thing with me. It's like I love to figure it out. Like I should have been a detective or something, but like and I'm really close to like a lot of the executives and stuff like that, but they don't tell me anything. To be fair, they don't. But I'm just like, I love the process of elimination. But anyway, it really is like a blind date, because sometimes I can't lie, like sometimes you just don't get along with your partner. And the worst is when they don't trust you, right? Or they don't like being coached by a woman, or they were told that the show is not this intense. They were told that maybe you can take days off or whatever it is. But then when you come into the studio and you're like, I want to win the freaking ugly mirror ball trophy, I'm like, okay, well then let's get to it. Like, are you sure? I keep saying, like, are you sure you want to win? Like, this is not pretty. This is not what you see on TV. Like, we're going to have to like work really hard. And when they say yes, then they probably regret it about like week 5.
Talking about
oh, sorry. I was just going to ask one more question about the production. So then while you're in production, that day that you have a performance, what is that like? How long are you in hair and makeup? Like, what is take us from the moment you wake up?
Okay, well, our call time's like at 6 a.m. We go straight to the makeup trailer, right? It's a live show, so we go live at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And it is, okay, so we get there, we do makeup, we go in and do band rehearsal. And like I think I'm the only dancer that sweats, especially as far as the women go. Like I am a nasty. I don't smell, but I look like I just showered. But I'm definitely a sweater.
Wait,
like all the other girls,
sweat?
Comes out of somewhere. All I know is that I definitely sweat, and you see it. But anyway, and so then they have to reapply my makeup because I'm the only one that sweats. And then we have to do like body makeup. So Nadej, shout out to Nadej. She's like the best body makeup artist ever. She'll come into our trailers and boy, she could write a book at the end of this. She's been around since the beginning, but like she will put layers and layers of gleam, right? And for me, I mean, we used to back in the day have to hide the tan from the executives because we started looking like Oompa Loompas on television. And I'm tanorexic. So it's like for me, that's a layer of skin, right? So it's like a layer of clothing in a way. So it defines you. It's like bodybuilders, you know, when they put that fake tan on, you can just see the definition. I don't know. I feel safe with tan on. I don't know why. Clearly, I should have been a part of the cast of Jersey Shore, but on my like normal day, like this is who I am. It's fine. I'm not putting like weird tan on, but like for when I'm half naked shaking my butt, definitely you'll see me with a bunch of tan on. And then from there we go into hair, dress rehearsal, and then live show at 5. I mean, it goes by so fast. And then we're not done yet because we have press afterwards, and then I have to go choreograph if we make it to the next week because I don't like to come into the next day of rehearsal unprepared.
Now, just to put a pin in this, because one of the last 2 times we hung out, we were in
Yes,
Brooklyn.
I was deep into it.
Because you were going back and forth from
Oh
Brooklyn
my
to
gosh.
LA
Then
every
I got
week
COVID.
for the rehearsal and the show.
Yeah.
Like, how is that even possible with all of the hours of dancing?
You take red eyes, and then when you get off the red eye, you go straight to rehearsal. But then it was short lived though, because remember I got COVID about week
Yeah, you
2
got
into the
COVID.
competition, and you know, and Peloton was nice enough to build him a studio here in Pasadena, but it was grueling. I mean, Emmett Smith, when I danced with him season 3, that was like my second season on the show. He refused to relocate to Los Angeles. So we flew back and forth to Dallas so that he could be with his family, which I respected.
Yeah.
But like I'm not 22 anymore, right? So it's like even when I'm sober, it's so hard. Like it takes a toll on your body, but you just gotta, this is why like you can't think when you're on Dancing with the Stars, oh, I'm gonna win when you're on week 1. It's so overwhelming. There's so much to do that you kind of have to try and force yourself to live hour by hour here.
And Sam had started talking about partners. Now, you've obviously built different relationships with different partners. Like with AJ McLean,
Hmm.
you have a podcast, like you have a business together
Yeah.
now. So
Yeah.
how does
Well,
that happen?
we did have a podcast. We're no longer, unfortunately, doing it right now just because of scheduling and him going back on the road with the Backstreet Boys. But yeah, I've definitely, I mean, the journey with everybody is very intimate in that sense because they're coming onto this show so vulnerable, right? I mean, like when you're not vulnerable and you try to be cool when you're trying to ballroom dance, it just doesn't work, right? So it's like you have to just let it all go and be willing to wear whatever they put you in and just, you know, teeth and tits, they say. You got to just shake it and just have fun with the whole experience. And that's when you get a lot of that feeling back, right? Like it becomes like well worth it. And so it's those people who are willing to just be a fool with us that I've developed such a great relationship with. And like Emmett taught me a lot. I mean, we're going to be lifelong friends, but like he taught me a lot about like the first thing he said when he walked in after we danced a little for the cameras, he was like, what are you going to do after this is over? You know, he made me really think about life after Dancing with the Stars. And this was back in 2007. But it really, you know, a lot of people, I believe, come into your life for a reason. And I can definitely say that this show has in a ways been a blessing in that sense too, because I would have never met these people if it wasn't for the show. And also I've learned so much about myself through this process.
Who was the last partner that you were paired with that you spoke with?
Cody Rigsby, Peloton instructor, Cody Rigsby.
Is
We just
Cody the
talked
one
the
you're
other day,
closest
actually.
with?
I would say, you know, it's a different like relationship with, I wouldn't say like one person I'm the closest with. It's just more like, what do they play as far as like, he's like a big brother. You got Emmett, who's like the grandfather. Then you've got, you know, AJ, who's like my sober buddy, you know, and we're just trying to live like one day at a time together. And so, you know, obviously because Cody is my last partner from last season, yeah, we talk more frequently. But like whenever Emmett, you know, Emmett was at my wedding and like, you know, there's really those people that just play different roles in your life for sure. But it's interesting because like even the partners that maybe I wasn't a fan of, let's say, in the beginning, it's still a lesson, right? It's all a lesson at the end of the day.
So how would you answer Emmett's question now? What will you do when Dancing with the Stars is over for you?
Well, for me, I guess if you were to ask me like 4 or 5 years ago, like what's my purpose in a way, like what is that? Like what do you see yourself do after you hang up those dance shoes? I would say it was just to share my love of ballroom dance with everybody. But now, because dancing and movement has played such a big role as far as the therapeutic benefits go, right?
Mm-hmm.
Through the trauma that I talked about earlier and all of that, that is for me what I want to do next. I want to be able to create a movement program. I don't want to say the word dance because everyone gets so intimidated by it, but it's not for dancers. It's not an exercise program. It's a program that really your intention is to be better when it comes to your mental health. It's all towards how like rhythm and movement can just change your mood in a matter of seconds. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that we associate therapy with talk therapy, and there's so many different types of therapy out there. And I
Mm-hmm.
believe movement hasn't really been established as that. Like you've got horses, you've got animals, and just even walking, moving your body, it does switch something in your brain to where you feel better about yourself. So I want to do
That's
that.
awesome.
Hopefully
Yeah.
it launches this year. I keep talking about it and I'm like, oh my God. But I partnered with a certified therapist as well, so that there's, science that backs it all up.
Yes,
And
that's awesome.
yeah, so we'll see.
You alluded to sobriety.
Hmm.
Can you tell us about that?
About my sobriety.
Yeah, and just the role that alcohol has played in your
Yeah.
life.
Oh God. Well, I always describe myself as like a professional number, right? There's been a lot of, I guess, trauma, but like at the end of the day, it's trauma that's being built up if you never feel your feelings. And I've always been running away from them, right? And I was always and still am trying to feel my feelings. I'm not like a expert by any means, but it was so scary that I just used alcohol to numb, and it became a problem because it was a daily thing. It also became a problem because I was a functioning alcoholic, and it became a problem because, it was just excessive, right? And I am an addict and I am excessive with anything that I do. Um, but I just never wanted to put that label on myself, let alone take responsibility over why or what I was doing. It was more like just trying to get by. And now being sober for over 3 years, it really has put everything into perspective. It hasn't been easy, but it's made me face a lot of my fears and demons and I guess skeletons in my closet that, you know, the amount of I guess me wanting just to be better is definitely due to me stopping like to disrespect myself in a way when it comes
Mm-hmm.
to like abusing my body with poison. And for me it was never just one drink, right? So it was a constant thing. And eventually it just didn't work anymore. My father passed away. He was also an alcoholic. And I had a weird reaction to alcohol, to be quite honest. I started getting hives all over my face. This is when I was just engaged, and it was like doing the reverse effect. And knowing my personality, I either had to quit cold turkey or else I would have to probably check myself into the nearest rehab.
Um, One of the things that struck me in reading your story was when you shared that you were concerned about the sexual nature of your dance with Drew Lachey and being disrespectful to his wife, who was pregnant at the time. And she was like, no, just go for it. But you are in such a physically close relationship with your partners. Has
Hmm.
that been an adjustment for you, or how do you handle that now? I remember that was season two.
Well, right. So that was my first season. I think it was an adjustment more about me worrying about what everyone else was thinking because I've danced my whole life. So the dry humping side of ballroom dancing has been something that has been a part of my life, like since I was 13 years old in a weird way. But it's not in any sense like oh my God, there's feelings. But that's our job, like actors. They do love scenes, and then that's your job, is to make it believable, right? Like that is part of the whole thing with ballroom. It's like you've got 5 different Latin dances, let's say, and each dance has a story, and it's important. It takes two to tango, as they say, right? So it's like that chemistry, because when you don't have it, it's pretty apparent. but it's so vital, right? And at first coming here, I think because I wasn't comfortable in my own skin, it was more about people pleasing in a way. Like I just never wanted anyone to feel uncomfortable. It was okay if I felt uncomfortable, but it wasn't okay if, anybody else was feeling weird. But yes, it has changed now. Now it's kind of like this is lose my number to most of my partners after the season. No, I'm kidding. Believe me, there is no sexual attention here. No, I'm kidding.
That is so funny.
Aim, I think we have to go to our speed round now.
Okay. I think we could talk for so much longer, Cheryl. Sorry.
Oh
but
my
I
God,
my
girl.
speed round.
I know.
You're going to have to come
seriously.
back.
This went by way too fast.
Well, we're going to host
Is
a
it
dinner
already?
in
Oh
LA
my goodness.
soon.
Yes.
So you'll have
Are
to
you
come.
going to be here soon?
I'm going to come out.
Oh,
and-
are you?
Okay.
So Cheryl, are you based in LA?
Yeah.
Oh, for some reason I thought you were in New York. That's where you two had hung out.
Oh no, I was there because I was dancing with Cody. So he's based
Oh,
in
okay.
Brooklyn. Yeah, in
Oh,
Williamsburg.
okay.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
in the Pacific Palisades.
Oh, I love that area. I want to move there.
Where are you?
I'm just like Mulholland and like in the hills, but I've been in this house for 15 years. It's time for a change.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Wow.
Okay. We have to do
Yeah.
the speed round.
Okay,
and
okay.
we'll ask some fun questions.
Let's do it. Okay.
What book are you reading?
Ooh, well, I'm listening to that Oprah book with that psychiatrist. Or how did that happen? No, you know that book. Hold on.
Oprah.
I mean, I gotta figure out the title. Too bad for the speed racing questions. 1 second. Hold on. Oh, what happened to you? There you go. Sorry.
Who leaves you starstruck? You've met so many people, but there must be one person who you haven't met.
Ricky Martin.
That's awesome.
Huge crush. I don't even care if he likes girls or not. Doesn't matter. Huge crush forever.
What is your nighttime routine?
I've got this weird addiction now. It's got to go somewhere, obviously, but this is a healthy one, I think, called diamond painting, and it's literally putting rhinestones on a canvas. It is so crazy. Like I don't like to wear the rhinestones as much as I like to look at them. I mean, I'm looking at a picture that I just finished. I'm pretty impressed with my work, but this is what I do before I go to bed. It's really weird. And then I write in my 5-minute journal. Yeah.
Oh,
Before.
okay. You have to show the YouTube viewers this picture because now we're all dying to see it.
What picture? Oh,
Your
you mean of my
diamond-
Your
whole day.
diamond picture, yeah. Or your canvas. I don't know what to call it.
I mean, okay, you guys, literally, it's one by one. Honestly, these are
Wow.
Swarovskis, so I've replaced like what actually comes in the kit with Swarovskis. I swear this is like worth some money, but whatever.
Oh
Listener,
my goodness.
if you are listening to
Like,
this
look,
podcast, you have to go to
this
YouTube
is
and
so
see this
weird.
because it's amazing.
Yeah, it's the weirdest shit ever, right? Like I never thought I was gonna be this like arts and crafts girl. Like I was like the club goer by night, ballroom dancer by day. It was my job. I was like a cool kid. Now I'm such a nerd and I love it. That's who I ended up
The
being.
pandemic made us all nerds.
That's fine. Yeah, I mean, this is so therapeutic. It's crazy. I would have been falling asleep listening to the Audible if I'm not, obviously sidetracked with diamond painting. So there you go.
So, what is your favorite mocktail now that you don't drink anymore?
I'm obsessed with the cucumber flavored Perrier. It's yummy.
One last question. Where are you going on vacation when this is all over, this pandemic?
Oh my goodness. Honestly, I am all about hot weather. I love humidity. Like I should have been living in Miami because my hair doesn't frizz. So I just love it. So anywhere that's tropic, I guess. I love the Caribbean, but I also would love just to go back to the Philippines. There's this like one island that is just so beautiful. It's part of the Aman chains, of hotels, and there is a private island that they own over there, and it's just insanity. I would love to go back there.
And one final question. What is your favorite beauty product that you couldn't live without?
You guys would die. Everyone's like, so what do you do for your beauty routine? And I'm like, I barely wash my face. So I use a makeup wipe and water, guys. That's really what it is. Don't wash your face. You need to build up the natural oils in order to get glowing skin. Duh. I just figured it out. I saved you guys a lot of money. I swear to God, you'd be lucky, like, honestly, and I know it's littering, but, like, every week on Dancing with the Stars, I throw my eyelashes out the window at the same area on Mulholland and Laurel Canyon every single time for the last 15 years, and then I'll hit a makeup wipe, and if I'm lucky, I'll wash it with water. There you go. I do love me some
Uh,
eye patches, though, like those collagen eye patches. I love me some of those, so there you go.
So
I
Lou
think
has been listening to this whole conversation, and
Lou,
he always comes on with a doozy of a final question from the male perspective.
let's go. I'm ready.
There's somebody that's gonna be scouring Mulholland Drive for those eyelashes. I'm
Right?
telling you.
They probably
Cheryl Burke
you could
eyelash
reuse them,
collection.
you know, or sell them on eBay maybe.
Oh man, this has been so much.
A lot.
Yeah, and it's refreshing.
Oh, good, good.
Thank you so much for being on our show, Cheryl.
Oh my goodness, thank you.
I really truly enjoy honesty. Like me also being in recovery, I did a lot of lying in my life. I've been around a lot of liars, and to be in a room with somebody who can have so much courage and share some stuff that other people, believe that they're not kind of singular and facing, you are their voice. So one thing that came to me is a question about dark thoughts because no one wants to talk about the crazy thoughts that they have. Me, I've been sober almost 9 years now, and I stopped smoking
Congratulations.
cigarettes. Thank you. Congratulations for you to come out and to be open and honest about your issues.
Thank you.
But I stopped smoking cigarettes about 4 years ago because I had a thought while I was smoking a cigarette. The thought came to me to flick the cigarette in somebody's face.
Oh,
Yes. And where did it come from? I had no idea, but I
I've
shared
had those
that.
thoughts.
I'm telling you. So
Yeah,
I share that with people to
yeah.
let them know that, it's okay to have these thoughts. It's just not okay to act on them, right?
Right, 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 right.
So in your journey, right now being sober and in the past, I'm guessing you probably had a lot of them.
Oof.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
That's my biggest roadblock are those thoughts. I feel like that is the reason why at times maybe I'm not as successful or whatever I want to paint the picture of. But I've just learned, which is crazy. I wish they taught this in schools, but that we're not our thoughts. And I think knowing that and continuing to, I guess, analyze what that means has, in a weird way, been the anecdote, right? To like quieting them, just to being the observer of my thoughts. But man, I have a soap opera in my head. Like it is crazy what I think about, right? Like I'm like, wow, like I can make up some crazy shit in my head and I'm like, oh my God, it happened. Like I didn't even have to be dreaming. Like I can literally feel insecure about something and I can be like, oh, all right, well, you're cheating. Like randomly. I'm like, but then how does that happen? The reality gets like completely messed up. But then I have to remind myself too. And I guess my word of the year, I'm trying to put this freaking vision board together. Man, I'm just procrastinating like
You can
crazy.
do it.
Thanks. That should be my actual mantra. But it's grace, it's like being okay to have these thoughts, like knowing and not judgmental, which is, oh my goodness, I've been judged my whole life as a competitor. So it's like all I do is judge myself. And it's like that, just the allowance and knowing that it's okay to have these thoughts. But like you said, not act upon them is very important.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Cheryl, thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
This is so
Thank you
great.
guys. Thank you. I could talk to you all day. You guys ever do
Yes,
like a what is it called? Like a big reunion with like a long podcast for like 24
we're
hours?
actually doing that. Yes, and we'll sign you up. You're our first person we're signing up for the 24-hour
I'll take the first 24
broadcast.
hours. No kidding.
And we're also going to have a dinner in LA soon, so we will definitely
Yeah,
be
we'll keep you
inviting you to
posted.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, I would love that. Thank you guys for the free therapy talk. This was great.
Cheryl.
You're welcome.
Cheryl.
Thanks. Thank you. Thank you so
Bye.
much. Bye. Bye.
Thanks for listening to What's Her Story with Sam and Amy.
We would appreciate it if you'd leave a review wherever you get your podcast. And of course, connect with us on social media at What's Her Story Podcast.
What's Her Story with Sam and Amy is powered by my company, The Riveter, at theriveter.co, and Sam's company, Park Place Payments, at parkplacepayments.com.
Thanks to our producer, Stacey Para, and our male perspective, Lou Burns.